Dallas Cowboys offseason, it's been pretty eventful. Amari Cooper no longer in town. You gave big money to Michael Gallup. You brought in James Washington as well, so I feel like the wide receiver crew looks pretty good heading into this season. Not as powerful.
I know the numbers are not nice. In the 9 games without Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott's 3-6.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. I don't care. I feel like CeeDee Lamb is a legitimate one in this league. Michael
Gallup?
Nope. Dalton Schultz. Good.
Yeah. Who you franchise tag?
I feel he's the number 1 tight end. I feel like Michael Gallup's a good 2. Now, do I think you could add something into the receiver room? I do. And you'll do that later in this draft. But that is not your biggest need.
No, it's still the defense. The defense is still needs to accumulate young stars. It did pretty well with the Micah Parsons pick last year. So hopefully they can find a guy that impactful in this draft, though those guys are very rare. They have the 24th overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. So let's kick off the post-free agency 7-round mock draft for your Dallas Cowboys. At number 24 overall, Devonta Wyatt, defensive tackle out of Georgia.
The high side on this kid's really good. Had a huge breakout year last year. Now, you're going to have to ask yourself 2 questions. Was that because of the defense that he had around him at Georgia? Because in the 3 years prior to that, he was a mid-round pick at best. And that's probably being nice. So you've got that one-year wonder thing out there with Devonta Wyatt. Or is that he was miscast? Because he played all around the line, and I don't think that's what he does. To me, he's an interior in a 4-3. That is where he fits. He fits next to a Dante Fowler, next to a DeMarcus Lawrence. And you can be the third guy on a line like that. I don't think he can ever be the best defensive player in a 4-man front. That is a recipe for disaster because he struggled with double teams like hell. A lot of guys do. Played a little too high at times, and that's to be expected. He's a freak of nature. Mm-hmm. The one thing I don't want to watch a team do is what I'm afraid that teams are going to do with Trayvon Walker. He can do everything. Yes, he can because he's a physical freak of nature, and so is Devonta Wyatt, but he's much better at one thing. He is better as playing on the interior next to a good pass rusher where you cannot man up on him, and some technique flaws that he has can be covered. He plays so high at times that really good guards can push him out of the play. There's not a lot of those that I think can do that. And you put him in the right situation, of which, to me, the Dallas Cowboys are his. If he's sitting at home watching the draft, he should be hoping he winds up with the Dallas Cowboys because this is the best scenario for him in this draft. And I would say if this happened, he could be a top 15 player to come out of this draft, and you get him at 24.
Yep. He can give you so much. He can stop the run. He can offer you some pass rush as well. One of my favorite secondary Georgia players on that championship defense. In the second round, pick 56 overall, Darion Canard, guard out of Kentucky.
This is the Connor Williams replacement. I understand you think it's Connor McGovern. It's not. It's not.
Coming from a Jets fan.
Wrong Connor McGovern.
Oh, that's the wrong Connor McGovern. I forget there's 2 of those in this league.
There's 2 of them with the same weird-ass name.
Yeah.
Darion Canard is, to me, he's very flexible. If you want to start McGovern, more power to you. Mm-hmm. He can come in as your swing tackle because he is a gigantic human. 6'5", 325. A lot of people don't believe he can play tackle in the league because speed rushers will always get to him. And I agree with that. He can be a swing tackle to begin, and the intention is to really round him off into being a guard because I think he can be a good guard in this league. Now, he has fallen over the course of the process. I don't think he interviewed well. I know anytime I start seeing a player drop right after the combine, it leads me to and take aside the fact that I've already been told this, it leads me to believe that you did something at the combine that rubbed people the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Well, that's never really been a problem in Dallas. Red flags have never been something they go, well, fuck that guy.
Right.
And you're going to see a perfect example of that just a little bit later. Talent always weighs out. And Darion Canard should not be on the board at 56, and I think Dallas would happily take him there.
At number 88 overall, 3rd round here, Brandon Smith, linebacker from Penn State. I know he's one of your favorites in this draft.
This is one of my favorite players in this draft. I think he can play on the strong side. I think he can do damn near anything because he's one of the best coverage linebackers I've ever seen. Very mobile. I do think you're going to play Micah Parsons more in line with the loss of Randy Gregory. I understand you signed Dante Fowler. Do you do that at your own risk? I've seen that be bad in a slew of places, so I really have very little reason to believe that it will be any better in Dallas. Brandon Smith's tall, long, really fast for a guy his size at 6'3", 240, ran a 4.5, 240. Great in coverage. You're going to have to teach him to hold up against the run. I'm sure somebody's going to say this, that, well, isn't that a hat on a hat with Jabril Cox? No. And I'll be honest with you, if you played them together with a four-man front of Lawrence, Wyatt, Micah Parsons, Neville Gallimore, I don't care who the other one is, and you've got Brandon Smith and Jabril Cox back behind them, I don't care about any of your secondary deficiencies because over the middle is going to be dealt with. And I think there's a positive to that because Leighton Vander Esch does not give you a lot of that. Leighton Vander Esch is a cleanup guy. And I think it's great that they brought him back. I have no aversion to them bringing him back. It's just that you have to round that linebacker room out in a different way. And I think Brandon Smith would be a tremendous way to do that. You do need to teach him some tackling technique. He's one of those, I call him 90% players. You do 90% of the play right, and then when the rubber meets the road, you miss the tackle, you take a weird angle, whatever the case may be. He did a lot of that at Penn State.
Again, this is another one of those picks that I think a third round, this guy's going to last to the third round, but I think it just goes to show how talented of a class this is.
This is the best class I've ever evaluated from 45 to 145.
Yep.
And Brandon Smith is kind of a victim of that. He's also a victim of the fact he played on a really good defense, and it's pushing all of them down. Because just like Georgia, you don't know if it's a sum of all parts or if any of these guys individually are as good as they looked on film.
In the fourth round, 129th overall, Taekwon Thornton, the wide receiver from Baylor, goes to the Dallas Cowboys.
He's real fast.
It's the best you got.
End of message.
End of message.
Not to go sitting president on you, but he couldn't play dead in the Western as a receiver. He can't. He's not a good route runner. At limited route tree, this is you're going to take a raw ball of clay because he does a lot of the things that you can't teach. I can't really teach you to be smooth, and he is smooth. He's a very good deep ball player. You're going to have to completely teach him the route tree. Another thing I can't teach you, I cannot teach you to be 6'3", and he is. Mm-hmm. But there's so much raw here. And I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, why would you take that guy in the fourth round? Because you're not going to get him later than that. You run a 4.28, and look, I've said this in other videos. I know I said it in the Packers because a bunch of people commented about my fun turn of West Virginia phrase. John Ross couldn't play dead in the Western, and he is still in the league because he's real motherfucking fast. Taekwon Thornton has advantages that John Ross didn't. John Ross was just a little feller. He's not. Mm-hmm. So if you can get the most out of him, this could be a tremendous pick. This could also be just a guy that he's never more than a decoy, never more than a real tall version of Devin Smith, because there is a possibility of that. That's why you take a guy like this in the fourth round. The good could be really good, but you're going to have to be patient with it and know that there is risk involved.
In the fifth round, the Dallas Cowboys have 4 picks.
Speaking of risk involved.
2 of them as compensatory picks. We'll get to those in a second. But the first one for the Cowboys comes up at 155 overall. And yes, there are a lot of questions about this guy. It's Adam Anderson, the edge rusher out of Georgia. There's no doubt that the talent is there.
He'd have been a top 15 pick if there was no off the field.
Yeah, the red flags are massive on this guy.
And the resolution does not appear to be coming. Adam Anderson has been accused of sexual assault at Georgia. It was kicked off I don't think he was ever kicked off the team. He was suspended from the team and then did not play in the college football playoff.
They did cut ties at one point.
They cut ties, but I don't think they ever revoked the scholarship or anything like that. Yeah. They said it out loud, but then they didn't do the clerical things just in case it
went away.
Yeah. Which it so far has not.
No.
As I said, this is one of the best pass rushers in this class. Freak of nature, can play on the end, can stand up. I think he can play 4-3 outside linebacker. That's how hyper-aggressive he is. Every drawback on him comes back to the red flags. The Dallas Cowboys have taken more chances on guys like this than any team in the league.
Mm-hmm. Just sent one of them to Denver. Or
Cincinnati.
I was talking about Randy Gregory.
I wasn't even thinking about him.
Yeah.
That would be ironic to replace one with the other. There is a possibility this kid never plays a game in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a possibility that this gets settled, and this would be Lyle Collins, Randy Gregory, part 2, 3.
Yeah.
Of on tape alone. We do not talk about politics. We're not lawyers. We're not cops. We say that on our ESPN show, live right here on YouTube, 3 o'clock every day. We don't do those things. To me, you cannot have 262 selections and Adam Anderson not be one of them.
No, not a chance.
Somebody is going to take the risk on him because he's too damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Lyle Collins didn't get drafted. Lyle Collins was a fringy first-rounder, late first, beginning of the second. I mean, people have revisionist history that, he was a top 10 pick. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't, and he never was.
This guy was.
Yeah. This guy, and I'll be honest with you, if you took the red flags out, he wouldn't have made it past 8. There's no shot he would have made it past 8. He would have been the number 1 Georgia player drafted in this class. So at some point, you just take the risk. And would there be backlash? Absolutely. But if it works out, you look like a genius. If it doesn't work out, then, we wasted a 5th-round pick. And the Texans wasted one on a Jets player that I genuinely forgot was on the roster. So,
and again, as you said, you get this right. It's the win of the draft.
Absolutely.
It's the Tyreek Hill pick of the draft.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to remember, Tyreek Hill, there were a lot of red flags about him coming out, too.
Yes, there were.
So, I'm sure somebody's going to say, he's not going to get drafted. And he may not. I don't look for that to be the case. And I think it's going to be right and around this area. Especially
to an organization that's used to managing these a difficult situation.
Oh, and by the way, they're very good at it.
Mm-hmm. Next up in the 5th round, their second pick of the 4, 167 overall. You got them taking Yousef Corker, safety out of Kentucky.
This is kind of the Keon O'Neal, what you wanted that to be, not what it actually was.
Okay.
Plays in the box. Good tackler. You're going to have to teach him. You're going to have to crank him up coverage-wise because I'm not sure he's going to hold up to that in the NFL. He's a backup to Jaron Kearse in the beginning with the knowledge that I think there's a lot to unlock here. This kid was on the Chase Claypool team, which is the team I put out every year of guys that I am higher on than the industry is. Last year that had Amon St. Brown. Chase Claypool was famously on that list, which is why it's named after him.
Mm-hmm.
Next year it's going to be the Amon St. Brown list. I just really like this kid. He's very squatty. He's got some technique deficiencies, which is where the liabilities and coverage came from. He was asked to be a thumper, and that's what I think he's going to be in the NFL. He's just this is the junkyard dog kind of player. You've left him tied to a car for 6 months, and then a bird comes in here, and guess what? He eats it because he's hungry. And that's very much what I see in Yousef Corker on film.
At 176 overall, a compensatory pick, the first of 2 here. Nick Zaquel, offensive tackle from Fordham.
Hyper raw. This is a year away from being a year away from being a year away. Played at Fordham, so level of competition is obviously a problem. But he is, if you built an offensive lineman out of granite, he would look like Nick Zaquel. And he's a better run blocker right now than he is pass blocker. This is in my ideal world, he does not dress for a game all year. He's a little heavy-footed right now. He doesn't have that dancing bear thing, but he's very strong. I mean, freak strong. And if you're patient, every year we get 5 to 10 offensive linemen that you're going to have to be patient with them. And if you thrust them into a role, they'll get pushed out of the league. And if you're willing to do the work, 2 years from now, you remember that guy we took in the 6th round? Yeah, he's the starter now. That's what this kid can be. But you're going to have to be patient.
2 picks later at 178 overall in the 5th round, Vernon Mckinley III, safety from Oregon.
He is the free safety version of Yousef Corker because he's better in coverage, but he's also that junkyard dog, just scrappy. The flashes of him are a day 2 pick. there are times that he looks like he should not be drafted in this league because he's just painfully inconsistent. Mm-hmm. And there are times in coverage he's really tight. Safety's been a problem for the Dallas Cowboys, I think, since I've been alive. And going back to Darren Woodson, once that was done, it's pretty much been a problem since. I think a combination of of these two guys, one of them's going to work. I wish I could combine them into the same player because they have some of the same issues, but I think one's strengths would resolve the other's weaknesses. I like this kid, but I don't like him as much as everybody else does. I mean, I see him go in the third round routinely, and to me, that is insane. Mm-hmm. Good football IQ, but just the aggressiveness takes him out of place sometimes. And then he went to the combine and ran a better than expected time, 4.48. I thought he was about a 4.6 guy at 5'11", $195. Gonna have to obviously get bigger to play the way he plays in the NFL. Where I think he is different from Yousef Corker is he is a special teams impact regardless. Yousef Corker is one of those guys that if you can't get the talent out of him, I don't really know what he's going to do. He forecasts to me to be a starting lineup player. Vernon McKinley, if he never was a starting 22 guy, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think he'll be a very good special teamer very early.
The final pick of the 2022 post-free agency 7-round mock draft from the Sportsocracy by the Dallas Cowboys comes at 193 overall in the 6th round. Lectica Smith, guard, Virginia Tech.
Does it show that I don't really buy into your offensive line depth much? Is that apparent yet? Because it should be. Mm-hmm. One of the most underrated things that I have had teams over the course of time of me doing this tell me that is underrated is in those later rounds, drafting guys that are great to have in the room. There have been a slew of these over my time doing this. This kid is ridiculously smart. Apparently, sitting down talking to him about football becomes intoxicating. There's a positive to that. Now, do I think he's ever going to be a great player in the NFL? Great, no. I think he can be a serviceable 7th offensive lineman. Forecast to be a guard, to me. The difference between him and Zaquel is that I don't necessarily think he has the high side of if you're patient, he's going to develop into a starter. That's why you can get him in the 7th round. I think he's going to be Zach Martin gets hurt and he can slide right into that position. And is it as good? No. But is it going to fall off a cliff where that is just where everybody sends every blitzer and that's where every play runs? No. He can be a serviceable extra lineman to have on the team. He's played all over the offensive line. For as big as he is, I kind of wish he was stronger because a lot of his best tape was against smaller players where it was just physical mismatch. I mean, at 6'3", 320, I would expect you to be a bull. Mm-hmm. And he didn't really show as a bull to me at times. Showed as a bully to smaller players. You get him out in space, which he's not super mobile, so it's kind of hard to do. But you get him out in space, and he would just demolish smaller players. This is a good-in-the-room guy. Depth piece, the definition of a late 6th, early 7th-round pick in the NFL draft.
All right, the 7-round post-free agency mock draft from the Sportsocracy for the Dallas Cowboys. Man, this would be a phenomenal haul for a team that has a lot of hope. They want to be more hope than hype, which is something that they have not been in several years.
Look, the Cowboys have the high side of all the things you need. I think they have the quarterback. I think they have the running backs. I think they have the weapons. They have the pass rushers. It's all of the – and these are not sexy drafts by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, for the love of God, you went defensive tackle, guard, linebacker to start this out. Yeah, you had a flashy receiver and a flashy edge rusher in the middle, but this is one of those meat and potatoes kind of drafts that builds teams. And when you have Dak Prescott making as much money as he is, his contract is outsized to what he is. I don't think anybody believes he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. The biggest Dallas Cowboy homer on earth does not believe that at the deep of their soul. They might say it out loud, but they don't really believe it.
Right.
So when you have that problem of you're paying a guy a salary that is excised, you have to really work hard in the draft to build the depth. And so there are guys like Yousef Corker and Lectica Smith and Brandon Smith. There's really no miss here. To me, there's no, they didn't make the roster a year from now. I don't see that. Are they ever going to be great? No, probably not. But they're safe. And they're safe value pieces that are team-controlled and cheap for a long time. And that's how you build a roster with a quarterback that expensive.
Yeah. Cheap being the primary here. Because Dallas has got to get away from those giant contracts. And they did that in this offseason by, getting rid of Amari Cooper.
Well, and cheap is one thing. I would be cheap. I don't hold a lot of value to an NFL team because I've been smoking menthol since I was 16 years old. So, I wouldn't necessarily – people always say cheap. Yes, but when you have a roster like this, you need – cheap and safe. Mm-hmm. It's okay to take the shot on Adam Anderson and okay to take the shot on a Taekwon Thornton so long as you're bringing in the guy like Vernon Mckinley that I know what he's – I'm not going to say I know exactly what he's going to be. I know what his floor is. And his floor is he's going to have a role. And this is not going to be just a spent cost where I have to go sign somebody on a vet minimum deal that is twice as expensive to replace him. He's going to carve out his role, and I know that. And that's what a team like the Cowboys needs.
Your turn to weigh in on the Dallas Cowboys 7-round post-free agency mock draft. You like Jeremy's picks? You hate Jeremy's picks? Hit us up in the comments.
If you think I'm a big, red-bearded, mulleted, man-bun dipshit, you can also comment that. And a few people have, and that's fine. I have a smoking hot wife, and I talk about sports for a living. You cannot hurt my feelings with widow words on the internet.
Hit that subscribe button so you can join us every weekday afternoon here in the Ingles studio. At 3 o'clock, we'll have all your team-by-team content throughout the Draftmas season as well here in the Sportsocracy. We're always brought to you by Ingles Supermarkets. Low prices, love the savings.
Here comes Drafty Claus. Here comes Drafty Claus. Right down Drafty Claus Lane.
I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene, and we will see you next time.